Well, as promised, we're going to talk about Quess Corp. They posted their best ever quarterly numbers. It was a good sequential growth in key businesses across the board. But what does FY23 hold? Guruprasad Srinivasan, the CEO at Quess Corp, joins us now to talk about that. Mr. Srinivasan, good afternoon and thanks so much for joining us. Can you give us some growth targets? In FY22, your revenue growth was quite good. You ended at about 13,700 crores. This compares to 10,800 last year. But what are the growth triggers for FY23?
Thank you so much for having me on this episode, and this has been the best ever year for us in terms of growth. Our revenues up by 26%, our EBITDA up by 16%, and our headcount is at 437,000 people that we deploy from Quess. Largely, the growth comes from the banking and financial sector, logistics and supply chain, manufacturing and industries, retail and telecom. And these are few sectors which have been highly in terms of the hiring, intensifying kind of situation for us. So, overall, the sentiments look good for this FY23, and we continue to see growth coming in from specifically from manufacturing segment a lot. Manufacturing and industries, retail, which was probably almost very subdued for last 4 to 6 quarters. We see a lot of traction happening in retail. The consumer spending patterns are changing, and we are seeing the push coming in terms of hiring outlook from that segment. Telecom also, which was almost a little slow, has become quite active now, and we are seeing a lot of demand coming in from telecom. Logistics and supply chain and banking has been always at its best. So overall, the year, as we step into Q1 FY23, overall the year looks quite positive for us, and we are seeing demand coming in, and we are at a quite good demand at the moment where we are.
Guru, is there any way you can quantify the good demand that you're seeing going ahead? Because this was the best year. You did about 26% in terms of revenue growth. Can you grow at the same rate? Can you give us a band in which you would expect to grow on a base which is high as almost 14,000 crores now? And as you do that, when will your margins improve beyond this 4, 5, 6% band? That's where they've been for the last 6 years or so.
Right. So let me take this in 2 parts. One is demand. With regard to demand, I would say, currently where we are about over 30% higher than what we used to be last year for the same quarter, and which is a quite good traction for us. And the kind of margin profile that if I were to look at, we have 3 platforms that we operate into. One is the workforce management. The second one is the global technology solutions, and third area where is into industrial asset maintenance. So workforce globally runs at an average of anywhere between 3.8 to 4%, and we are currently pegging around 3.3%. And we are working on a lot of digital initiatives to accelerate our SG&A cost to downwards, so that it adds to a kind of margin trajectory over a period of time. And
sure.
With regard to the GTS, we are on an average running about 13.5%. Marginally, there is an increase that can come in there. And OEM is an area where things are not completely open. The ITES industries are not completely back to work. That's a segment for us to wait and watch, and we are seeing some green shoots coming up now with regard to 2-day working from office, and companies have started putting that as a process to return back to work. That should start boosting us. So
sure.
In nutshell, on an average, we should slowly start inching towards step 1 to from where we are to about 30 basis points, and then upward slowly.
Okay, all right. So maybe an improvement in margins coming soon. Mr. Srinivasan, I wanted to ask you about your capital allocation policy, because you did pay your first ever dividend in FY21. FY22, I think, was an interim dividend. How much cash are you generating from your business currently? And what is your cash on books, and what is your capital allocation policy going forward?
So a PAT, I mean, the reported PAT is about 251 crore for the current financial year that we have closed, FY22. And we have a clear capital allocation policy. So we have a one-third, one-third, one-third policy. One-third goes towards dividend, one-third goes to our working capital and any reinvestment that we want to do into the business, and one-third is towards acquisition. We have a very clearly laid down policy on that.
Okay, all right. So that's your capital allocation policy. Can you tell us a little about the funds for Monster that you received? What have those funds been deployed for? Will there be any more equity infusion that perhaps shareholders can look forward to?
Sure. So we acquired Monster in 2018 and at a valuation of about 18 million. And from there, where we are today, the company is valued at 100 million. So that's a great step that we have got, and it's the second largest portal in the country, and our traction on system is extremely high. So our sales growth has been almost about 42%. The number of customers that we have added in a quarter is about 68%. And the rate of renewal of subscription in itself is over 80%. So we have raised, I mean, the valuation is about 100 million currently, and we have raised about 137 crores. Largely, this fund will be deployed onto the product development and sales. And we would burn anywhere between about 90 to 100 crores this year. And with that, the sales is going to double. And I mean, it's going to be almost about 200 crores kind of estimation that we are working on. So it's a very fantastic asset that we are working on.
All right, we take that point. Thanks a lot, Srini. Always a pleasure speaking with you. You took over on February 10th, and from there we've seen growth coming by. We wish you all the best for a good FY23 as well after a momentous FY22. Take a short break. On the other side, we keep an eye on the sky. Manish